Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel of Bethel Evangelical Free Church Hanley. I'm Pastor Gervais Charney, and this is the last, for the moment anyway, for today's set of recordings of historic churches in Rutland. This is St Edmund's, Egleton. It's a Norman building, as you can see behind me, this nice Norman arch, but you'd never know it from the outside. It's a great example of how English parish churches have changed and developed over the centuries. It's a building that at one point was bigger than it is now. You can see the evidence of the 14th century aisle on the north side that's had the tower rebuilt in the 18th century and has had an awful lot done to it. So as we look around, we have it's a beautiful building. It's one of my favourite Rutland churches, some lovely churches in this county, but this is one of the best because it's got all this history all the way from the Normans through to the 19th century. So let's see what that history looks like, shall we? So we start at the west end. Now the Victorian pulpit has been removed. It's now here. It's not used. Instead, the reading desk has become the pulpit and the organ is on the other side. You can see we have a nice big chancel arch, nice chunky Norman, and then above there's wall painting. Now that is the royal coat of arms. It's a bit faded to be able to see whose it is, but I think it's Stuart. It's definitely got the lion and the unicorn, in which case it's almost certainly King Charles II. There's not an awful lot for Charles I that survive, and of course James I was not very popular, or James II was not very popular. Maybe James I, I suppose. But here we have some medieval bench ends. These are called poppy heads. They're from the French poupée. Don't look much like a doll's head either, though. But that's what they're nicknamed, and these are 14th century, and it's a sort of very early seating. Nothing but the ends survive of these four. The actual benches themselves are long since rotted away, I expect. The font is a square Norman tub lined with lead, and you can see how it's being used to store books underneath for service books and such like. Very useful. I mentioned the 14th century aisle, and here we have the 14th century aisle. You can see it's been filled in. It has had its day and ceased to be. The village has grown, the village has shrunk, and so the aisle that was built has been taken down and the arcade filled in. Norman arch, as we said, and you can see on the side here there's a squint, and then there's that opening there. That one up there, that's where the rood loft would have been. The carving here is extremely good. So there's the reading desk. That's now basically the pulpit. Carving here, very, very good. Look at that. Look at that work. And the capital. And of course, they're different on both sides. Normans, very often, they're not trying to be symmetrical. Symmetry is for later people and earlier people if you're Roman or Greek, but symmetry is not a Norman thing. And nice 15th century windows here in the chancel. Obviously the glass is later, but the actual windows themselves, they are the openings. And then we've got the Easter sepulchre. And then on this side we've got the dropped sill sedilia. That's where your sedilia is formed by dropping down the windowsill. And the piscina, fairly plain piscina with drain. You can see they would have statues either side, and that there is the Easter sepulchre. That is 15th century, so we're quite late. And here we have a memorial to Thomas Crofts of Gunthorpe and his wife. Gunthorpe is a settlement in the parish, doesn't have its own church. You can see there through the squint. And this end of the chancel side is plainer. That's normally the case. The chancel side will be plainer than the nave side of the chancel arch. And mentioning chancels, you can see there at the west end, against the tower, a screen, and that is almost certainly the rood screen. Yes, it fits there, but it fits in the tower. It fits better in the rood screen. So. And you can see the font with its cross and everything. It's a lovely building, Egleton. So here we are back to the rood screen. and it's been moved. The paint is all gone. It would have been painted and gilded, and reds and greens. You can see a little bit of paint, in fact, on this. A little bit of striped work there. So it'd be red and white and green and a bit of gilt. But it's all been rather knocked about a bit over the centuries. And so that is Egleton St Edmund's. Lovely interior, all this history. And you can see again, of course, it's been restored in the 19th century when most of the seating, well, all the seating and the pulpit and reading desk have been put in. So St Edmund's on the inside. Before we go fully outside, I want to stop here in the porch because of the tympanum. A tympanum is this semicircular thing over the door, and they're normally carved with symbols. Here we've got a couple of dragons with this wheel petal thing in the middle. There's normally a symbolism to it, but I'm not quite sure what it actually is. In fact, one of them, well, they both look like dragons. I suspect one of them is actually supposed to be some kind of bird. And then we've got these big columns with, again, different carvings on them. This one goes to sort of knotwork at the bottom. Very, very typical Norman stuff. But this is really, really high quality work. Very different, of course, from what you'll find over in Herefordshire, but of course it is. It's a good distance away. And here we have the commandments banished, sadly, to the porch. But at least you get to see them as you go in, and you get to see this wonderful tympanum in all its glory, early Norman stuff. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. So let's have a look on the outside. Well, here we are outside at Egleton, and this is where you can really see the contrast between the exterior and the interior. Inside, you can see the Norman work. Outside, you can't see the Norman work. Outside, you get this nice 18th century tower that replaces an earlier tower that fell down. If you don't maintain your church towers, they fall down. And that's what happened here, but it's been rebuilt, spire and all. And so we look around the outside and see, among other things, have a look at where that arcade for the aisle used to be. So here we are, the south side. You can see here how it all just looks very, very perpendicular, very 15th century, apart from that tower, which looks very, very Georgian, because it is. And the chancel undoubtedly is perpendicular, and that window might say, there may be some 14th century work here, but you look at it and you think, well, this is basically a perpendicular church, and it isn't. It's a Norman one, but it's a Norman one that's been very well concealed. We have a reappearance of stripiness, this sort of this polychrome stonework where you use your ironstone and limestone in bands to create this striped effect, and that's done, of course, to really make the building stand out. You see here that when they took down the aisle, they had to have something to replace it in terms of holding the building up. And you can see there, that's the rood stair turret with that little cross window in it. The roof is currently being fixed after some villains destroyed it. Villains took the lead off it, and people took and yeah, there, and you can see there where that aisle was before it was all taken down. I suspect a lot of it's a case of we need to do maintenance on the building. We don't. Here comes the dog. Hello, dog. Hello, dog. I think your owner would like you. It's one of the perils of church exploring. Local dogs come to say hello. And there you see the ironstone and then the ashlar, and that ashlar has to have been taken off the aisle when it was knocked down, and the material, some of the materials would have been sold. It was a way of paying for church repairs. You didn't have any money, and then you've got, and obviously needed the repairs because that tower, the upper part fell down, and it had a spire before then. So need the money, need the work. So that then is Egleton. And so Egleton Church, St Edmund's. Of course, St Edmund is the martyr king of East Anglia. He's killed by the Danes and revered therefore as a martyr for Christianity, killed by the pagans. He's known as a saint, and buildings are dedicated to him. And you can see here that there's quite an impressive building back in the 14th century, 15th century definitely, and then there's been decline, and largely it's going to be an agricultural decline, that the actual economy around here declined, that the numbers weren't there to keep all the building going, and sudden repair bill means that we have to sell off the aisle. So these things happen. It's a beautiful building, and it's one of my favourite Rutland churches because it's got that funny interior and that mismatch between the outside looks 14th, 15th century, and the inside is, wow, it's all Norman. So thank you for watching, and may God bless you and keep you until next time.